Hi everyone, it's Nat here. Hope you're all doing well. I'm on for my August design team project for Whichcraft Do You Do. Now you may remember last month I started using the vintage People 1 and 2, I think they are kits. I better just double check. Yeah, so that's set 1. Now there's heaps of pages in each of these kits and I've just printed out some of the pink ones. That's what I'm concentrating on this month. And then the Vintage People set 2, which have more of your photographs rather than your fussy cuts. And I've grabbed some other bits and pieces. So this is a freebie. It's the identification card freebie that Whichcraft Do You Do put out. I might end up using some of that in this project. Maybe not today, I don't know. But I think that will go nicely as well. I have a piece of their Ephemera display pocket and bits freebie just because I like the vintage receipts on here and it'd be a good way to use some of that up. And I did print out some of their vintage ads set 1. Got 3 pages of that. My theme is sort of your pinks and your cream colours for this project, so I thought these might go nicely to collage with. So what I have done is I grabbed a book cover and I've covered it in this pink fabric. So it's just a little cover. Now these are the projects that I made last month with you guys using the people from both the kits. So I've got this one with this tag. So they're wallpaper pockets. And then this one, which I love, it's so cute. So that's the only ephemera really that I've got to go in this so far. So I need to get making some more. So I thought we'd do some of that together today. Now, the other day you might have seen on my channel, I made a whole lot of book plates. And these were 2 of the ones that I made. And I'm thinking one of them might go quite nicely on here as well. Why not? That's what I made them for. So I put them to the side and ponder that. So in my little cover, I have, needs a lot of work. I have 4 signatures, although I think it's going to get too bulky. So I won't tie them in yet and I'll start embellishing some pages. And what I can do is just remove some of the pages if need be. I just thought 4 will be a nice lot to put into that cover, but I might need to make them a little not so bulky so I can fit more ephemera in here. So the pages are mainly your tea-dyed book page, text page, and some like hymn pages. So that's what I've got so far. So I also have a whole lot of printouts. Now these are from my own personal stash of antique postcards and greeting cards and that. So I thought, well, I've got them, I might as well use them. And I just think the colours will go really nicely with the style that I'm putting into this journal. So I'd like to use some of those. So what I thought I'd do today with you guys to get some ephemera going is I've been following along with Whichcraft Do You Do's videos, well, following along, watching them and getting very inspired. And they do have an altered postcard series at the moment. And at the moment, I'm looking at the Motherloads notebooks. So that's Anne, aka the Motherload. Yeah, there's a video, Altered Postcard Series number 3, Notebooks Motherload Style with Whingy Mum. So I'm having a bit of a giggle while I was watching that to refresh my memory this morning. So I thought I'd give that a go. Great idea, and I think one of those will fit really nicely into my journal. Now, they've used their vintage French postcards, like authentic postcards, which I do have some here, but I'm still hoarding them. I do want to make some French-themed journals in the future, so I'm sort of hanging on to them for that. So hence why I've printed out some of my own, and because I think the colours in these will go really nicely. So, but they still have stacks of the vintage French postcards in there. shop, so you can head on over and check those out if you want some for yourself. So I'm going to make one of the notebooks, and I thought what I'd do is use this because it's gorgeous. Also, I think it's a perfect size because it's a portrait. Because it's portrait style, I think it's going to fit quite nicely in a pocket in this journal. So I want to use that as the front of my little booklet, and then I'm going to use this as the back of my little booklet. So it'll be like that. But it is very white and a little flimsy, so first I'm going to cover these pieces with some old book page as usual. So I'm just using my Hellmann's glue here to stick the postcard onto my blank book pages. And then I will cut around them. Absolutely love that picture on that postcard. Such a fun project, this. Great way of adding a little booklet into your journal. So that's the front and back pretty well ready to go. Just neatening up the edges so they match. So now I've got some book pages ready to put in my little notelet, and I just made them out of some blank book pages as well. I've just done a score in the top cover postcard, about 1/2 inch from the edge, so I can fold it up to write on my papers. Now the way I cut out my papers is I've got 3 large blank book pages, and I put them all together, and then I used one of the parts of the postcards to put on top and trace around, and then I cut within the lines to get the layers of my pages, and I've got 6 pages there. I thought I'd better do it the way the Mother Lode showed. I'm sure she's not used to people doing what she says. So now I'm just putting a little dot where I want to put my holes. It's a lot easier for me to get them even, sort of, if I mark them out first. And I just use my crocodile to punch the holes. And I decided to tie it off. I would use a bit of the fabric because I'm using these sorts of fabrics within the journal. So I just ripped a bit, and it was a bit too pink for my liking, so I'm just going over it with a bit of my ink. And I thread it through the holes. And then I can tie it off. So I just tie a double knot so it doesn't come undone. And then I just want to decorate the inside of the top cover there. So I've got one of the pictures from the digital that I'm using. Just inking around the edges. And I grabbed one of the adverts from the Vintage Ads digital. I think that'll make a nice background, and it fits really nicely up there. So I've got some odd bits and pieces here. I keep the strangest things. Just little words and bits of paper and that, so I'm just raiding some of my stash of that sort of thing to find some pieces that I think might go on here for a bit of extra detail. Layering's definitely not my strong point. I find all of this rather hard, but I try. So, yeah. So just sticking it all down in a way that's semi-pleasing to my eye. But I suppose all of us are never really 100% happy with our work. I know I never am. So the photo is a bit neat and square, so I ripped a couple of corners off and just bent a few bits. And then I've got the awesome Miller and French stamps here. I thought I'd have a bit of a play with them for this project. This one's quite like a postmark, so adds a nice little detail. And then I find some of the word stamps. And I decide to just put them on the bottom of the first page there. I'm using a couple of different sort of pink tones of ink and my vintage photo. So I have this postcard, and I must have lost some of my film here because what I did was folded it in half. And then I used a square punch to punch the edges out there to make the spool. So I was following along with Kerry's tutorial on making these bobbins out of postcards. So ink around all the edges there. I did end up just snipping an angle in after I did the punching. I snipped these edges to make them a little angled as well. So I'm finding some of the Miller and French stamps that I think will fit nicely and look good on my spool there. I always do a test stamp before I stamp the actual thing. I'm using my distress ink, so that's why it's not a completely solid print that I'm getting with the stamps. But I wanted the distress sort of vintage look for these projects. Just trying my lighter pink there. And I decide to put some more of the words on the back there. It's a beautiful stamp set. I was surprised that it was rubber, actually. So my idea with the spool is to wrap around bits and pieces that I'm using in the journal, and then the recipient can use them. So for my third project, I'm going to have a go at the Altered Postcard Series #1, which is Hidden Paper Clips with Kerry. So I've got my background of a postcard there, which I'm inking up. I really enjoyed watching Kerry's video on this because she layered her postcard up with vintage papers and that, which I wouldn't have thought to do. As I said, layering's not my strong point, but I thought I'd use some of the fabric again in keeping with the type of journal that I'm doing. So I'm going to have a layer of my fabric and a layer of old book page there, which I'm ripping up to be a little bigger than the fabric. So the fabric hangs out a little bit past the edges of the postcard, and then the paper hangs out just a little bit past the fabric there. There's a fair bit of ink on that paper because I used it as a base underneath my fabric that I inked around the edges of. So now I'm just folding my postcard on the line. There's a line on the postcard, so I thought I might as well use that as where I fold it over. So I've got one edge hanging over like Kerry. Mine's hanging over probably a lot further, but it'll do. So now I stick my postcard to my fabric, making sure that all the edges of the fabric overhang. And then I use the fold in the postcard, just like Kerry, to help me fold my paper there so I know I've got it positioned where I want it. And then you shove your 2 paper clips on your folded paper. And then you can stick it all together. So I put glue all around the bottom of the fabric here. And then I add a bit of extra glue on that side with the paper clips, just to make sure that that all sticks together well. Then I add glue to the other side of the paper clips and fold that side down as well. Make sure it's all stuck together nicely. So that's the base of your folded paper clip, or hidden paper clip, ready to go. So I didn't like how square and that the paper was and how much it was hanging out, so I did go and rip a whole heap off. So now I decide that I'll embellish it a little bit. So I've got one of the Fussy Cut Girls from the Vintage People kit. She fits perfectly on that side of the postcard. Then I have this tiny bit of a dust cover, and it says the Book of British Wildflowers. So I just ripped out the word wildflowers there because it's in a maroon colour, which goes nicely with the inks and that I'm using. So I want to put that on as well. So I just stick that down the bottom after I ink it. And then I turn it over and I go through my Queen stamps. I've got so many Queen stamps, but you get every colour under the sun of those things, which is handy for finding the perfect colour to put on whatever embellishment you're doing. And I find a little pink thread and I thought, I won't waste that, I'll stick that under the stamp. And then I decide to stamp the Miller and French stamp over the top of that. Don't ask me why. I thought it would be a good idea to put a stamp over my threads. But I did. It doesn't look too bad, but yeah, probably should have done that before I put threads down. So I find some more of the word stamps, stamp that down the side. And it fits perfectly on my page. So the last thing I want to do here is I've got another background of a postcard, and I thought I'd just do a quick little collage on the front of it. So I've got a vintage book page there that I'm going to stick on as the background. I decide to just rip the edges off. So more Miller and French stamps here. It's beautiful text, and it's going to fit perfectly where my other embellishments don't go, so filling up the postcard nicely. I've got that photo of those dapper men, and that's from the kit as well. And then another one of the vintage ads. Oh, that was funny. Yeah, my ink hadn't dried. So the last little rub I did to stick my photo down, I rubbed ink and put a fingerprint all over my photo. It's always near the end of your craft session or the end of your video where you do something that ruins it all. Yeah. So then another Queen's Head stamp to put on the back of my postcard there. So I've got this big flourish stamp, which I love, and I thought I'd put that over that side. So I ink that up with my distress inks. Didn't quite print as well as I thought it would, but I still like it, and I do want the distressed look there. And then I got some more of the text stamps, which I thought would fit nicely. But I do get out my archival ink and do that flourish again on the paper just to show you that it comes out perfectly solid. It's user error and the distress inks rather than the actual stamp. So I have the rest of the words, the Book of British. And I thought they looked like British people, so I decided to stick that on because I like being random like that. That was so much fun. So I've made 4 pieces that I can put in my journal, or 3 really if I don't put my dot in, but. So I made this little booklet. So open up that postcard part, a bit of a collage there, and then a whole lot of pages that can be written on. I might ink around those, we'll see. And then we've got the postcard background as well. So that was heaps of fun to make, and I love using the postcards for that. And then we've got our spool here, and I used the Miller and French stamps, the new stamp set from Whichcraft Do You Do, which is here all over the place at the moment. Absolutely beautiful stamp set too. And you might have noticed at the end I had a bit of trouble stamping this, but I am using distress inks, and so you want the distressed look, but I stamped it afterwards with my archival and it comes out beautifully clear. It's just because I think the distress inks are your water-based and they sort of pull on the smooth big rubber bits to give you that distressed look. Well, I'm still happy with the way that turned out. I definitely wanted a distressed look. Okay, so yes, we've got our booklet, and then we made a little spool, which I love, and I'm going to, don't know if I'll do a few of these or just the one, and then wrap around some of the bits and pieces of fabric and lace that I used for the journal, so whoever gets the journal in the end has a few bits and pieces to play with and add to the journal. Love the way that turned out, great idea. And you can still see the writing that was on the postcard, but the stamping is really cool. And again, it's given us that distressed look, so it looks vintage, which is lovely. And then I've got my paperclip postcard. I realised it's pretty, don't know whether it's actually folded crooked. I think it is. I think my postcard's crooked. Doesn't matter though. And I used the beautiful picture of the vintage people. That would be out of set one of the fussy cuts. Gorgeous little girl. And I used just a word out of just this little bit of a dust cover that I had hanging around here because I liked the colours in it. It says wildflowers. Again with a bit of stamping and some of my Queen's Head stamps. And then I made this, which was just your blank postcard background. And I thought I'd add a collage to the front. And then my ink mustn't have been dry, and I dragged it all over my picture with my fingers. Something always goes wrong near the end of my video. It's like, no, and I didn't want to have to do this all over again because I don't have all the same pieces and that. Yeah, so I thought I would just finish it off. We will see. It's not too bad, but it's like a fingerprint there. It's always the way. Yeah, and I used some of the vintage documents or vintage receipts kit. Which one was that? My mum, I do have it here. Vintage ads, that's the one. And then I had the other little bit of the words that it was a pocket book of British wildflowers, but I used the wildflowers on the other bit, and I thought pocket book of British would go good here because they look like they're British. So, and that's the back. Love the stamps, they look beautiful. So massive thank you to the lovely ladies at Whichcraft Do You Do for the awesome stamps and the inspiration. That was heaps of fun. I don't often follow along with tutorials, but that was so much fun to do, so I must do it more often. Yeah, heaps of fun, and I've got some beautiful little pieces now to put in my journal, and I think they will go quite nicely. My postcards are big, but they'll fit in pockets and that, and give a lot of writing space. I think they'll go really nicely. So I will have Whichcraft Do You Do's shop link down below. And just a reminder that if you use the code NAT2023, you can get 15% off of any digital product at Whichcraft Do You Do. There'll also be a direct link to the Vintage People's kit 1 and 2 that I've been using for this journal. So, and of course you can find the other kits over on their website as well. And if you want to make some of these postcard goodies and you don't have any postcards for it, they've still got their vintage French postcards for sale in their shop as well. So take care of yourselves, be good, and I will see you again soon. Bye.